Welcome Anshul. Welcome to M2S Career Mantras English podcast. And I'm so delighted to have you today with us.
Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anshul, before we get into the podcast, I wanted to understand. I know what you do for a living, but I want you to tell the audience what you do, what kind of problem you're trying to solve.
So we are an offshoring consulting firm. The problem we're trying to solve is for a lot of small and mid-sized accounting firms who want to offshore, they often struggle with getting the same quality as the larger firms, same quality work. And if you look at the larger firms, the way they have offshored is they've set up their own offices. They have their own employees. There's no one in the middle. So I have taken that model and I've tweaked it to work for small and mid-sized firms. So I call it direct ownership, but it's called by, there's a lot of jargon that you can use for the same concept. So I work with accounting firms to help them set up and manage their own employees in India, Philippines, and Argentina. It could be one employee or it could be 100 employees. And I help accounting firms on three fronts to make it happen. First is coaching and advisory. Right? A lot firms need a lot of coaching, a lot of education, a lot of hand holding across all aspects of offshoring: strategy, recruiting, compliance, performance management, SOPs, workflows. I help them with everything. Second is compliance. Anytime you hire a foreign employee, there's a lot of compliance that applies to you. So firms have the option of either taking care of that compliance by registering their own entity, or they could use me as an employer of record. So if they use that, then they don't have to worry about the compliance. I take care of the payroll, local regulatory requirements, but they still own the employee relationship. And then the third is ground support. You need to buy computers, coffee machines, office space, travel assistance. I provide all of that help, and I do it in a way at a cost that works for a small and mid-sized accounting firm. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
So basically, you are a one-point solution providing end-to-end services for accounting firms in the US and Canada.
Yes.
Got it. Anshul, our primary audience is HRs, hiring leaders, co-founders, founders, CXOs, and of course, working professionals who are looking for the next opportunity in their career. Now, I wanted to understand. We'll first start with a broader theme, and then we can talk more about you, your business. So, I just wanted to understand. You are more into financial and accounting services. What is the current general mood of the overall economy? Especially you are based out of Canada, so about Canadian market and the North American market in large, and then we can take it forward.
So there's two things, right? There's how it's impacting offshoring and my business and the general business sentiment. General business sentiment is pretty low right now
Mhm.
because of everything that's happening with the US and the world, right? Businesses are scared to spend money unless
Mhm.
there's more certainty of what will happen.
Mhm.
Canada is slightly worse than the US because Canada has been severely impacted by the tariffs,
Mhm.
and Canada does not have the kind of leverage that US has against really any country. So it is challenging. Businesses, when I talk to CEOs, when I talk to business leaders, everybody's cautious. And then there's just this impending fear of inflation going up again. Things are still very expensive. I traveled to the US a lot. I remember just going into a normal restaurant, like a fast food sort of quick service restaurant. And my meal was like 25 US dollars. Usually I remember it was like 10, 12, or maybe 15. Excuse me. So that hits you, right? And I am in a privileged position where I can absorb those costs. Those are business expenses for me. But if you think about
Correct.
the normal person, right, those things have a real impact. And then they're the
Mhm.
consumers. Both the US is a consumption economy. Canada to an extent has become a consumption economy. So these things matter. Now
Sure.
how it impacts offshoring. that could go either ways. Whenever things get difficult, offshoring generally gets a boost because firms are looking to cut costs while maintaining quality. And so they may look at offshoring. The interest that I'm seeing from my prospects and my industry, that hasn't gone down. I'm hearing I'm hearing from more and more firms who are interested in offshoring, who are
Mhm,
interested in doing something globally. So that
mhm,
hasn't taken a hit yet. But then, as geopolitics gets weird and worse, that could have an impact. But too soon to
mhm.
say. That's my 2 cents.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I speak to a lot of founders and CXOs based in different parts of the world, and you are sort of echoing the similar sentiments. So, even if the organizations who have the capacity to expand, or on an individual level, the entrepreneurs who can expand are taking a cautious approach.
Yep.
Anshul, yeah. So, tell me specifically about the financial services and accounting industry that you work so deeply in. What are the scenarios there? What are the general sense of the organizations working in this sector?
Yeah, so I primarily work with accounting firms in US and Canada. So some things that I've noticed in the last few months, there's rising interest in Canada to also offshore. Generally, it was the US, but I spoke with the firm yesterday. I think I have a call with a very big firm today, um,
Mhm.
and they were all offshoring in some capacity, but they're now like, well, we want to have our own office, or even if we want to work with an agency, we want more control, or we want to expand what we are doing. So that's one of the biggest changes I'm seeing, where Canadian firms are more open. I mean, part of that is the normalizing of the relations between India and Canada. Um,
Yep,
like, I don't
yep,
want to get into the politics part of it, but like both
yes,
countries were sort of fighting, at least in the media, so that wasn't helping. But
yep,
now that that seems to have gone away, a lot of firms, because you cannot offshore without really looking at India. That's I mean, you can go to Philippines, South Africa, Argentina, but nobody really offers the same talent ecosystem, not just in terms of size and depth, but maturity as India. So I think
yep,
that's one big change. The change that I'm seeing in the US, which is selfishly good for my business, I don't know if it's good for the overall accounting space or overall offshoring space, is firms are looking for more control. And it started with that, we want better quality work. We've tried outsourcing agencies and we didn't quite get the results we wanted. So if we have more control, more ownership of our resources, then that'll get better results. But now the conversation has changed to, I can find people here in the US, right? That's what firm owners are telling me. But I still am under pressure to increase profitability. So if I
yep,
have my own captive center, GCC, or whatever you want to call it, if I have my own small team wherever outside the US, then not only do I get the best quality, but I can save more as well. Um, and then the third thing that I'm seeing is a lot of demand for bookkeepers. So that's very interesting because AI has come of age, especially when it comes to bookkeeping. But the number of requests I'm getting to hire bookkeepers like outside the US, that's actually gone up. Yesterday, I spoke to a Canadian firm and they were like, we need a bookkeeper, but we need one in Argentina.
mhm, mhm.
Another firm was like, can you please uh, connect us to an outsourcing agency of bookkeepers in the Philippines? So that has been very interesting because a lot of accounting firms are now focusing on CAS, like client accounting services or client advisory services, and bookkeeping is a big part of it.
Sure.
So it has moved from firms primarily offshoring tax to now looking at offshoring bookkeeping. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
seeing. Those are the three trends that I have noticed the most.
Sure. So my next question would be, what should an entrepreneur do in such scenarios where, on one hand, we see the economy struggling, and on the other side, you are supposed to, go for profitability, and at the same time, you also do not want to, ruffle feathers with your employees and with your clients. So, as an entrepreneur, what is that one thing that entrepreneurs are giving you a sense that they are trying to balance out things? How are they managing things?
So are we talking entrepreneurs in US, Canada, or like India?
Yeah, US, Canada.
So the thing about entrepreneurship is like you got to look at results, right? What is it that you are trying to achieve, right? So most accounting industry entrepreneurs, the way they are looking at this is okay, how do I use AI and offshoring to compete with bigger firms? So they're using Claude and Chat GPT for a lot of back office stuff. They're using that for content creation, marketing. They're using AI tools to help with like tax preparation, bookkeeping. But then they're looking offshore to hire senior level people. So that's, I guess that's another trend. Like I'm getting more requests for senior level people.
Mhm.
Um, so we worked with Mantras to Success last in October, right? We were
Yeah,
looking to hire
yes.
senior people, and so that's been very interesting. So that's what entrepreneurs are doing. They're looking at both technology and offshore talent to figure out how do I start a firm without spending 20 years at a different accounting firm? How do
Mhm.
I help my clients more? How can I price my services competitively? Um, so for entrepreneurs, the formula really hasn't changed. AI and offshoring has given them options. Last year, I met this guy. He was 21 when I met him. He start he started his accounting firm when he was 19.
Wow.
He was living out of a van. He didn't have a house. So
Mhm.
he's based in Vegas, and he told me that he was living out of a van, and he realized that he started seeing a lot of negative reviews for accounting firms in Vegas from
Mhm.
restaurant. And he was like, I can do a better job, but like I don't really have a CPA. So he actually started hiring CPAs not in India but in China. And
Oh,
he
wow.
hired two CPAs in China, and then he just focused on advising clients and finding clients and marketing and operations. And the CPAs did all the tax work and the accounting work.
Wow.
And now he has a team of 12 in China again. And because he has
Mhm.
a team in China, he has started getting a lot of Chinese American clients.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what accountants, entrepreneurs are doing in the accounting space. And I met like another person who was like in Vegas. He would go through Google reviews, and anytime he would see a negative review for a CPA firm, he would email the person who wrote the review where if they shared their name. And he said that, hey, I just saw that you are unhappy with your accounting firm. Um, can I make a proposal? So entrepreneurs are like smaller firms, solo practitioners. They are really on a tear. They're doing really well because there's a lot of
Mhm.
work. A lot of accountants are retiring, and they're the ones who are very open about using technology and offshore talent to sort of make things work.
Got it. Got it. Interesting point here, Anshul. You brought in Chat GPT and Claude. So the next follow-up question naturally would be, uh, how deep or what is the impact of AI in the field of accounting and financial services impacted? You mentioned that a lot of firms are using Claude and ChatGPT for the back office work. So does that signal that there is no need for outsourcing or offshoring? Or firms are, with the help of these tools, they are taking up more work and still going for offshoring and outsourcing.
So offshoring will explode because of AI.
Hmm.
And I'll just share how I'm hearing from my clients. So everybody tells me or thinks that, oh, now with AI, offshoring will be useless. But if you look at firms that already have offices in India or wherever, I mean, they're using AI, but they haven't reduced the size of their India teams. AI will definitely slow down hiring a little bit, but you'll have more firms hiring fewer people, but like more firms will hire people. So overall, I don't think hiring will go down per se.
Hmm.
Entry level jobs are at risk. I would say that for sure. The nature of an entry level job has changed. So I was looking to
Yes.
hire somebody in Canada to just help with some of the basic stuff. um, Things like I do a lot of interviews, right? I do a lot of first round interviews. So when you give me candidates, I'm the first person to interview them from our side. I shouldn't
Yes.
be the one doing that. Right? I think I should have somebody else. Um, I have to prepare client invoices. I shouldn't be the one to do that. I still have to sort of check expenses, expense reports, and everything. I don't want to do that. So I was thinking of bringing somebody on, but now I have Claude to do most of that, not the interview part, but client invoices. Last week I was with Claude and I told Claude that, hey, here's all my clients, here's specific needs of each client, and here's the invoice format. Every month at this date, I want you to create an invoice. I want you to send me a message asking me, okay, is there any changes in the invoice? Ask me for the exchange rate, all of that, and it'll create the invoice by itself. But
Wow.
that doesn't mean I still won't need that entry level person. But that entry level person doesn't necessarily should know how to create invoices. I just need them to know how to use Claude because there's still some human interaction required, right? So I want them to use Claude and sort of do the work of 10 people. So
Sure.
that's in a nutshell how AI is changing every industry. But I believe it will supercharge offshoring because if you look at all the issues that happen with offshoring, communication problems, cultural differences, small errors that need to be redone, that need to be fixed, AI will take all of that away. But the cost arbitrage of salaries still remains. Right? Until AI completely replaces an accountant, a US accountant, it's not going to replace an offshore accountant. So
Absolutely.
a lot of firms would now, I believe, dabble in offshoring. They may not need 20, 30 people. They may just need five or six, but they'll still need those people.
Yes.
And any offshore employee that can coach their accounting firm on how to use AI, I think they'll have very high job security.
Absolutely. Now, this is a good examples that you have shared. Yesterday, even I also was talking to somebody, and he's working with a client in Spain. So the client is Spanish, and I asked him, "But you don't speak Spanish?" He said, "No, I make the use of AI. So the client gives instruction in Spanish, the AI translates it for me in English. I say in English, and the AI translate back in Spanish to the client." And I said, "Yeah,
Exactly. So, and if you look at the Indian labor market, what percentage of Indians do you think speak English? It's not a very high number, right?
yes,
But what percentage of clients can actually do, let's just say, bookkeeping? Yeah, it's a very
yeah,
high number
it's very
compared
high."
to English speakers.
True.
Now, so my bookkeeper in India, she doesn't really speak English, right? So she doesn't get paid as much as a US CPA firm would pay somebody who speaks English. With AI, a lot of these people who don't necessarily speak English in India or Philippines or wherever, but are excellent accountants, they are
Yes,
going to come in the fold and they are
yes,
going to make sure that the salary arbitrage becomes even higher.
absolutely.
So, and when that happens, right, as a business owner, your prime focus almost always is how do I maximize profitability while providing amazing service to my clients. So
Yes.
then that's why I also believe that because of that, I don't see offshoring cooling down. It'll change, it'll fundamentally change, but I don't
Mhm.
think it's going away.
So, Anshul, again, staying on this point with the adoption of AI, so I see there's a fundamental shift in the skill set that is required, right? So, a young graduate be in the US or in Canada, how should he or she approach his or her career? And a young graduate in India, how should he or she approach his career? When I say India, count Philippines and China and the emerging markets, plus so the developed world versus the emerging world.
So for the developed world, you have to, I mean, you have to figure out how you can solve the problems of your neighbors or your businesses that you interact with using AI, and then just really start a company or consulting service to do that. Something very simple is how do you help elderly people in your neighborhood with AI? It's very simple. Think about our grandparents, right? They how much they would benefit if they are able to use AI. So I think that's what every graduate here needs to think of. Because whatever you've learned in college, AI is doing that. Right. But that doesn't mean you don't have a job. That just means that you now need to figure out how can I use AI to do what I was trained to do, and then take that solution to every business you can. If you're looking for a corporate job, find a corporation that's looking to double down on AI, and be that project manager, be that person who leads those efforts, or at least be part of their team. So that is my advice for anybody who's in the developed world, right? I understand there's a lot of doom and gloom, but like, I'm looking, like, if somebody came to me and said that, okay, tell me where are your roadblocks, and tells me, I can use Claude to solve all of those things for you, I would hire that person in a heartbeat. I may not hire them full time, but like, I'll still hire them. And there's like a million companies like mine that can hire that person.
Absolutely.
So, so I would ask everybody to change their outlook towards AI, rather than thinking that it's going to take my job. If you think like that, it will. Think about, how can I leverage AI to either start my business today or solve any problem that a corporation is having. And That's how I would recommend anybody in the developed world to look at it. The same thing for developing world as well, or I would say near developed world. I don't think India and China quite qualify as developing anymore.
Yes.
But
Yes.
um, so, like, let's talk India, right? So if you are an account, if you are a new graduate looking to get into the US accounting space, do the same thing. Figure out how you can teach this accounting firm to use AI to solve a lot of their challenges. If you are getting into tax preparation, like, how can you use AI to improve tax preparation while securing the data? And that way, a firm that's looking to hire 5 people, maybe, well, they'll just hire two, but you'll be one of them. But
Correct.
there's 46,000 accounting firms in the US. If you add financial services solo practitioners, it's about 85,000. Out of those, I think only 10 to not just a few thousands are offshoring. There's so many more that can still come and do it. So while
Right.
you may not have bigger offices, but you'll have multiple smaller offices. So that's
Yes.
how I would recommend talent in India, China, and wherever, any offshore destination, to sort of look at offshoring, look at
Yes.
AI.
So, so we'll be staying on this point right now. Uh, when we talk about accounting and financial services, I get a request from a lot of fresh graduates in India, or somebody who's into 0 to 5 years of experience range in India, who's typically working on Indian accounting, is either a qualified CA, or is in his journey of being a CA. He's appearing for the exams and stuff. They want to shift to the US accounting or the international accounting, maybe UK accounting. So sometimes I feel that accounting industry today in India is at a stage where IT industry was 20 years back. So in the beginning of 2004, 5, everybody wanted to be IT engineer. Everybody wanted to be a computer engineer. Today, everybody wants to become a foreign accountant. So everybody wants to become, somebody who is working on the accounting, and then that too, especially in international accounting. So that's what I feel that the journey is. I wanted to understand from your point. We spoke last time when we were discussing offline as well, that at this moment, US faces shortage of 3.5 lakh CPAs, 350,000 CPAs. There's a shortage of this. What is the general sense of the universities, colleges, to fill this gap within the US? Or students feel that they should take more accounting courses? Or how does the industry solving this problem? I know offshoring and outsourcing is one part of the answer, but are there any efforts? Somebody listening to this podcast in the US can probably be encouraged to take up accounting within the US. What is your general sense that how is everybody tackling this problem?
So every state in the US has a CPA society, right? So there's California, there's New York, Texas. All of these CPA societies are working with accountants locally. They're working with universities to increase enrollment in accounting. And they have been successful in increasing enrollment. I think enrollment in the last 2 years went up by 10 or 12%, which is a big
Mhm.
deal. But I don't think enrollment will go high enough to solve the talent crisis. because accounting has an image problem. It's seen
Yep.
as boring. It's seen as
It's non-glamorous.
it's not glamorous, right? Like technology.
Yes.
So that's one problem. The other problem is a lot of people are thinking, well, with AI and offshoring, why should I even get into it? Right. So that's again compounding the problem. So, I mean, anybody in who's thinking about accounting, like there's a simple way, right? Supply and demand. There's not enough accountants. So if you become an accountant, you get job security. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter. And AI and offshoring, they're not competitors. They're tools available to you to
Yep.
start a firm like that 19-year-old did, or to differentiate yourself from other candidates. How do you differentiate from other candidates, right? If you go into a firm and you have skills that allow you to master AI, that allow you to manage or work with an offshore team, you are very, very valuable to a firm. So that's what I would tell people, that there's a massive shortage. So the biggest challenge for any entrepreneur is to find work. And that problem is solved for you in the accounting space. All you need to
Yep.
say is, yes, I'll take that work. It's one of the last remaining professions where there is a sense of job security. If you come
Yep.
from maybe not the most privileged socioeconomic background, accounting is your ticket to a better life. It
Yep.
has minted one of the most highest number of millionaires in the US. So, and you need to look for opportunity where nobody else is looking. So everybody is
Yes.
scared right now. That means that here's where the opportunity is. So that's what I would recommend any new graduate or anybody looking to get into accounting.
Anshul, if I compare the cost of being an accountant or a CPA in the US, in India, it's pretty cheap to become a CA, which is an equivalent of CPA in India, and it's tougher to become a CA in India. But the cost to become a CA is very, very low. Like there are no colleges. You do self-study, you enroll with the ICAI, and then you get your books and just you appear for the exams. So these exams are very nominal cost. And you and me, we both have seen a lot of children from underprivileged or humble backgrounds going on to make excellent careers and mint money later in life because they happen to clear a CA exam. I wanted to understand what is the cost of being a CPA in the US. Like, for example, is cost one of the major reasons why students are not preferring to take up accounting in the US and in Canada?
So cost is always a factor. It's definitely more. Uh, I don't have the exact numbers to share, but like when you add in the education generally has become very expensive here, right? So that when you add that and then the requirements and the exam fee and the preparation fee and all of that, it does add up. But I don't think that's the primary reason why students aren't getting into accounting. The primary reason is the primary reason is the image problem. Then the other is compensation. As a starting salary, if you go into technology, you make more. There's no questions about it.
Yep.
Salaries are catching up, but it's still I don't think it'll ever catch up to like technology or investment banking or consulting. Those
Yep.
industries just pay more. Like you probably won't have like any work life balance, but eh, like young people are okay with that. That okay, like it's the first job, I'm okay with that. But then there's
Right.
also a lot of help available, right? If you have a
Yep.
job, a lot of corporates pay for your books, pay for your exam. These CPA societies have programs where they can there's scholarships where there's financial support programs for students who are interested in pursuing the CPA. So I don't think cost should be an inhibitor for anybody because there's ample help available. And these CPA societies are working very hard to sort of educate students that there is help. So I don't think cost is always a factor. I don't think that's the biggest factor.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Uh, so, coming to my next question, where do you see? Yeah, before I move to next question, one interesting thing. The world today is grappling with a phenomena called Gen Z. They are more attracted towards tech. What is their sense about accounting? Because if I talk about accountant, I immediately get a picture in my mind, somebody very senior with white hair, probably 50, 55 of age. So how is Gen Z? Do they even know that accountants exist?
I think they do know accountants exist, but it's the same problem, right? They don't find it as lucrative because accounting generally is very traditional, old school. They don't use technology. Gen Zs want to embrace technology. They like everything they do is tech oriented. So to go and work for a firm that's still using desktop versions of software, that's like very archaic.
Yeah,
A lot of firms are, as you said, the owner is probably an old white male thinking like an old person, right? In terms of how they want things done. Gen Zs just don't. For them, even for us millennials, right? That's just inefficiency.
yeah,
So Gen Zs don't like that either. And then there's the problem of image, not enough compensation, um, the perception that from January to April, accountants work very hard, right? They don't have really have a life for these 4 months. So
yeah,
Gen Z looks at that and they're like, well, I have a crappy life here and I'm not getting paid well. But when I look at tech or investment banking, I'm going to have zero time there, but I'll make a lot more money. So now, like with everybody educating or current accountants educating, sharing their stories about the fact that it's up to you, right? There are a lot of firms that don't have a busy season. There are a lot of ways to have work life balance and still be an accountant. So, with those
yeah,
things, um, I think they'll take more interest. But generally speaking, it's not their first choice.
yeah. I understand. I think it's also has to do something about better planning. Like for example, the CA firm that I have here in India, even though the tax season is in September, October, we ended the financial year on 31st March, and he already started asking me to send all the ledgers and bank statements and salary. So he says that I don't want to wait till September, October. We'll keep the records ready, and once the filing starts, we'll just file it and close it, and we are done. So I think it's about better planning as well. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. I wanted to understand one more perspective. Every country now has strict laws about where their information resides. I know US particularly is very strict about it. So when we talk about offshoring or nearshoring or outsourcing, how do CPAs handle this question when their clients ask that how is my data going to be handled?
Yeah. So that's always a big concern or a big top of mind thing, data security. So that's one of the things that prevents a lot of people from taking the first step towards offshoring because they're not convinced or they're just too scared. So there's two things, right? There's compliance and there's security. So if you are offshoring any tax work, especially from the US, clients need to sign the 7216 consent form. If it's individual, they have to, there's a separate form that needs to be signed. If they're an entity client, then it just needs to be part of the engagement letter. So that in itself is a big hurdle, especially for the individual part because accountants are scared. What will my clients say? But what I've seen is clients usually don't have a problem with that because they trust the accountant. And if the accountant can show that, I'm taking this step, I've thought about who I'm working with, I've done a lot of research, background stuff, vetting, clients are generally okay. And think about the last time you read your terms and conditions, right? Most clients don't really read the engagement letter or any form, they'll just sign it and send it back. Now, the second thing is the security part of it. So, what I tell CPA firms is that your goal is to make data as secure as possible, as secure as it is in the US. Anytime you put something online, it's at risk. So, a lot of accounting firms would unfairly ask offshore people to provide more security. That's and so that's I coach them on that. No, you can only have them make it as secure as it is in the US. And then there are
Sure.
things to do, right? Um, if possible, I tell accounting firms own the laptops, right? Rather than using laptops of the employee, that's a big no.
Yeah.
But even if the agency is providing laptops, no, if you can, like buy those laptops. So that way you control everything that's on that laptop. Uh, those laptops should be like dummy laptops where you can only log into the VPN and do all the
Yeah,
work in the US. So data is never actually transferred to India. All the
it's
work
a
is done
remote
through,
access.
yes, it's a remote access situation. And then you can have laptop monitoring tools, right, that can alert you when something suspicious happens. And then, so you put all of these things in place. You have an office, there's cameras, there's biometric entry. But then the other thing is explaining this to your employees and clients. They're not going to know, right? So I work with my clients, I sort of help them create these talking points, and they go and then they talk to their clients about it, that, okay, here's how we're protecting your data. And that tells their clients that, okay, this accountant has done his or her homework and I feel better now. So those are some things you can do to address the data security question.
Personally, I'm a big fan of the kind of content that you create. So this, as I've seen your posts, I've seen your podcast, to the length that you go to explain each and everything, to explain the fears that your clients might have. So I'm a personally big fan for that. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah. Anshul, I wanted to understand, where do you see entrepreneurs are making a mistake in their journey right now? We are living in a very evolved world which is evolving at a very fast pace. So where do you feel that, let's say, if I talk about accounting industry in general, like somebody being an individual contributor or maybe leading a team of 4 to 5, what is stopping him or her from being, let's say, the next 100% company or 1,000% company? So what are those mistakes that you generally advise entrepreneurs in accounting field to avoid?
So if there's so let's talk about entrepreneurs who are based in India. So I get like hundreds of messages from small accountants, people who have started their firms, that, can you please partner with us? Can you please use us for your uh, next project? And the biggest mistake they're making is they have to understand that there's literally 1,000 competitors. So how do you stand out? Because if you're an entrepreneur in India trying to sell to US accounting firms, like, your competition isn't just other outsourcing firms based in India. Your competition is people like me who are based over here. Your competition is other firms from Philippines who have big US offices. So my advice is, think about how you can stand out from competition. Telling me or an accounting firm that you have 10 clients and that you can help us save money, um, that's not enough. Everybody says the same thing. And if everybody's using AI, all the messages look exactly the same. So think of a way to stand out. And LinkedIn is your way to do that. Post a lot of educational content. Doesn't matter if you use AI, you should use AI, but it should still be a unique perspective. So post text post, videos, anything. The more imperfect, the better, because it shows accounting firms that it's human.
Yeah,
So any human element is like on a premium right now, and the best way to show you're human is imperfection. So that's what I would recommend accounting firms do. Think about how you can differentiate yourself. Think about a better way to approach US accounting firms, because they're tired of getting emails, right? They are like, I'm tired of getting emails and I'm not an accounting firm. So email alone isn't going to help. Like, think about how you can get their attention with data, with education, with yeah, with content, really, and like non-salesy content. You do that, and then if you have current clients in the US, right, then then use them. Ask them to make referrals, and incentivize them. Maybe give them a discount if they help you find a new client. So that would be
sure,
my advice, to go from like a team of 4 to 5 to like a 40 to 50 team.
sure. Sure. Uh, Anjali, one more thing. This we spoke about the entrepreneurs, but I also wanted to speak about the professionals. Uh,
Mhm.
I should have actually asked this very earlier in the podcast. What is a career graph that you see in a typical accounting firm? Like somebody who's now about to graduate from college. So what kind of career ladder he can expect, he or she can expect?
So you start with tax preparation. Right? That's really where it starts with most US accounting firms. You start with preparation, then you get your enrolled agent um, certification. Because that's one, the moment you have that certification, you are above every other candidate. Um, and then once you get that, you start working on more complex returns because it starts with simpler returns. The way accounting firms think is okay, I have returns that are very complex, medium complexity, and low. So they'll probably start you off with low. But then your goal is to move to the very complex returns. Then you move from preparation to review. Then from review, you move to, then you can specialize too. You can either specialize in an industry. I wouldn't recommend specializing in a particular type of form. I know Big Four does that a lot. But as smaller firms are coming to India and other offshore destinations, their business is a mix of every every type of tax return, personal, entity, partnership, whatever. But then you can specialize in an industry or a state that, I work with California firms or I work with Texas firms. And if you are to specialize, then pick the top four, so like New York, California, Texas, or Florida. And so that's how you should think about your career ladder. You start with a preparer with low complexity returns. You move up to higher complexity, then you get into reviews, again from low then to high, then you get into management, or then you start looking at managing a small team, because a lot of the demand I have right now is for somebody who can manage a team, a small team, like 1 to 5 people. I don't need you to be a leader. I just need you to sort of hold down the fort until I wake up over here, or until my client wakes up. So that piece is missing right now, because anytime I talk to somebody who's interested in management, they want to manage a team of 50, 100. There's only a handful of firms that can do that for you. And these firms that'll where you just help them manage a small team, they'll actually pay you a decent amount of money, because they're saving so much that they don't mind giving you a little extra so you can take care of things. And
Got it.
then you get your CPA by this point, and then you can look into either becoming the country head for a firm or starting your own firm.
Okay,
That's what I would.
this career ladder was from the tax point of view. How does one proceed from the audit point of view? I know in the CPA firms they work on tax and audit on two separate branches.
So it's
So
the trajectory is the same whether or not you go in tax or audit or bookkeeping. The idea is you start with low level, low complexity stuff, and then you take initiative and get into your bigger and more complex engagements. Don't wait for the accounting firm or your boss to sort of tell you that, okay, now you can work on a bigger, better project. You need to take that initiative and ask them upfront that, okay, I want to work on that project, I want to work on that engagement, I want to do this X audit. Then you get into a situation where you can talk to clients, because if you are able to do complex work, if you're able to talk to clients, then you become very valuable to the firm. So
yeah,
that's what I would recommend. You start with whatever starting level of work you get, but then you continuously keep requesting bigger engagements, better engagements, more complex engagements. Focus on projects that allow you to that or that that have a client communication aspect. And again, every with initially you'll start with emails, then you'll go to Teams, then you'll go to proper calls. Um, Request your client, if your employer, if you can visit them. That's always challenging with the visa situation and everything. But if you have a visa, make use of that, right? um, so that's the advice, right? You start small, you start easy, but you start getting into bigger, more complex things. You start looking at how do I get to a place where I can manage a small team. You start to think about how do I get to a place where I can communicate with the client.
Got it. Got it. I would like to ask the last couple of questions. I know we have a paucity of time. So, Anshul, one advice that you would like to give to our audience, and before that, one particular mantras to success that you personally follow in your own life that has helped you grow to this extent, and one mantra to success you would like to give advice to entrepreneurs and the students in general who are looking to make a career or who are looking to save run their company in these turbulent times.
Okay, so let's go through the list. First, my advice to anybody in India who's looking to get into the US accounting space, focus on your communication skills.
Wow.
Technicals, that's the easy part. The
Yeah.
problem that I have on an everyday basis with offshore talent is communication. Things like people don't respond to emails on time. They don't respond to calendar invites. They would get sick but not inform their employer. So if you are able to master communication, you would get promoted extremely easily because with AI and all of the technology, technicals is the easy part. It's the soft skills that'll set you apart. So
Got
that's
it.
my advice. Second was mantra to success that I follow. I
Apart
think
from working with mantras to success.
yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's about education. Like one of the ways I've changed my sales process is really to take the sales out of it. I now focus on every conversation I have with a prospect or even with a client. My focus is how do I educate this person? What do they need to know objectively? And that has helped me get more clients because when you focus on education, yes, I mean, you won't always get the clients. Sometimes education means telling. So, yesterday, the Canadian firm I spoke to, um, they could they could use my services. They were perfect. They needed two people, and I was like, just, I can help you hire them. But it wasn't for them. So, I'm introducing them to a competitor later today. So yeah, those things sting, but you educate because what's going to happen is a few months, maybe a couple of years from today, they'll realize that okay, now we're ready for what Anshul has to offer. So let's go back to him because he gave us real advice. So that's become my mantra lately, where educate and don't sell.
Sure.
Um,
And
what was
your
the sorry?
yeah. So the your mantra to an entrepreneur who is running his company in these turbulent times, and mantra to students who are looking to build a career.
Yeah. So so mantra for entrepreneurs: focus on differentiation. If you are able to tell a prospect why you, right? I don't think I have the best answer for that. It's hard. It's very hard to come up with that. So if you are able to come up with a, a good response to that question, and it has to be a real response. Here's how you check if it's a good response. If uh, whatever your response is about why you're different, if you change your name and puts a random company's name, your competitor's name, would it work for them too? If yes, then that's not what makes you unique. So really dig deep into what is it that's truly different about you. Is it the pricing? Is it the way you work? Is it your employees? Whatever that is, it'll take a few years to figure out and it'll keep changing. So
Yeah.
that is something, if you're able to nail that and with the other advice of education and everything, um, you'll do fine. And
This
then
is a
mantra.
$1 million advice. I am sorry to interrupt. This is a $1 million advice. The industry that I work in, HR and recruitments, and the industry that you work in, it just gradually it's becoming a commoditized services, and everybody's basically offering the same kind of services. How do you differentiate? And it's a $1 million advice. I was thinking you might say that no, save for the rainy day, times are turbulent, but this is such a fantastic piece of advice because this also clears the mindset that if you change, if you differentiate, you think about expansion and not just saving yourself. Yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Not
Yeah,
at all. No, I completely agree because even like our space is so crowded, right?
yeah,
So I personally struggle with differentiation because my model is very different, right? I help people set up and manage their own teams. But then a lot of outsourcing agencies say the same. So it's not just about saying that you're different, but like proving to the client or the
proving to
prospect
them.
you
Yeah,
are different
yes,
in a way that they
yes,
get it. So it's a challenge. And then mantra for students: don't be scared of AI. Right? It's AI is here to help. Yes, it fundamentally changes everything you studied and the plans you had. Like it, that's true for everyone. But like change your mindset and think about, well, now that this technology is out there, how can I use this to fast track my goals? And there is an answer there that works for you. So that
yes, yes,
mindset change will again differentiate you from 99% of the people who are thinking, what's the point? Everything will be automated anyway. And
yes.
I don't know the answer, but the thing is, you won't find the answer unless you ask the right question. So that's what I would say. Think about
Correct.
how you can use AI and these AI tools to get where you want to be quicker.
Yeah, that's again a real piece of advice because I'm seeing a lot of youngsters. I'm seeing two kind of youngsters. One who are very familiar with AI, they try all new different tools that are available in the market, and there is one set of people they are just scared to touch AI. For them, AI starts and ends at ChatGPT. That's it, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, again, that's a brilliant piece of advice. With this, we conclude today's podcast, Anshul. Thank you so much for your time. And no, I'm sure that our audience would have got a lot of value from this podcast. And I'm sure with the kind of knowledge and the industry depth you possess, one podcast is not enough. Maybe one more in future.
absolutely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jiten.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me
Thank you.
as
Thank
a guest. It was a pleasure.